Buenas a
¿Cómo andan?
todos.
¿Todo bien?
¿Qué tal, gente querida? Hoy con un amigo, un compañero, un invitado especial, Andrew.
Bastante distinto.
Vamos para el lado del
Muchas veces.
fútbol.
Además.
Con un amigo internacional. Nos visita del canal Because Fútbol.
Y lo vamos a dejar que se presente él en español, además.
En español. A ver, Andrew, querido.
Muchas gracias, amigos. Es un placer estar acá, tener más amigos de YouTube y muchas gracias por la invitación.
No, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, amigos latinoamericanos.
Él conoce ya Argentina, Colombia. Ahora nos va a contar un poquito
Ok,
igual.
antes que nada avisamos, a partir de ahora la entrevista va a ser en inglés para mayor comodidad de nuestro invitado Andrew, y después vamos a estar con todos los subtítulos en español para que se entienda perfectamente.
Sí, no se preocupen que va a ser...
Igualmente lo vamos a hacer hablar español un poquitito más para saber qué tanto anda y qué tanto no.
The first question. He is from Philly, from Philadelphia in USA.
Sí.
But in the USA, the football is not the main sport. It's very interesting to know why football, Andrew.
Yeah. Of all the options, everything you could choose, why would you choose football, like soccer, for you, if I'm right?
Good question. And it's true that historically, like, football isn't the number one sport in the United States. But even though it's not the number one, there's still a strong football community, strong football culture. It's just not like the most popular mainstream. As a kid, though, like, I played football, soccer from a young age. My father played and my grandfather played, and then my great grandfather, because they're English, so they kind of had the football culture from the UK.
That's
So
the start point, the kickoff.
The kickoff became from England.
Exactly.
Right.
So some of that,
same
and-
thing here. Here it comes from
No, and here in Argentina, I was thinking about it's like a legacy in the families, the football, and the same happened to you.
For sure. Yeah. And that's the case with many, like, you know, the United States, it's a very diverse country. We have people who came from all over. Similar, you know, like Argentina had a lot of backgrounds too, and people came from different places, and the United States is the same. So my father, like when he was younger, he played in a team that was from like an Italian social club. So it was all Italians, but they had a football team. So he played there. Or there was like Germans or Polish. And so there's been, especially in like the Northeast area of the United States where I'm from, a strong European cultural background of football.
Yes.
Now today we have in Florida, in the Southwest, in Texas, we have strong like Latino communities of football. I think that football, it's always had a presence in communities because of the cultural aspect, the cultural backgrounds. We just haven't been like the number one. So for me, it was like the family connection. But when I was younger, I played all the sports. Like I wanted to play American football too. I would play that with my friends all the time, but it was the same like season, the same time of year as football. So I didn't want to give up playing football to try.
Did you fall in love with football at first time, or it took some playing and some matches to start like liking it really?
That's a good question. I think it was probably always one of my favorite to play.
All right.
And I feel like at a young age, I was pretty good at it too. So I think that helped. I was like, oh, I think I'm good at this. And that helped to create the passion. But I liked playing other sports, and it was easier to find friends to play other sports with than football. They could usually just be in my football team. Like no one else in my neighborhood played football, right? We would play basketball or American football. Ever since I was young, I loved all sports. So I would read the newspaper and I would watch ESPN and all of the games and the highlights. I was probably more interested in sports like basketball and baseball and American football to watch and like as a fan, because, you know, the MLS didn't start till 1996. So I was 6 years old then, but it still wasn't very strong. And so the first time I remember like really watching a lot of football was the Women's World Cup in 1999 that was in the United States. The US team won it.
The national
because
team,
for me, like, exactly.
It's very strong.
The women national team, same as Sweden, I think.
And Deutschland and Germany.
Germany's been strong. So like at the time when I was a kid, it was like, all right, the men's not very good. Like, okay, kind of, but we really weren't very good. So I was like, why do I want to watch them? Like, I want to watch a good team. And then, but the women were the best in the world. So they had a lot of like players and a better reputation. So that's
good
when
results
I first remember
too.
watching it. Exactly. So they had success. They won. So you want to follow teams usually that
win
if you have a choice. The World Cup in 1994 for the men in the US, it did help to create the MLS.
Talking about the diversity of the culture in the USA, just like you said before, what do you think for the future with the Latin American people who goes to USA to live?
All the Latin Americans influence in the United States made a huge impact in football, I think.
What I want to ask is, what's your feelings to the future with the MLS? We know that
having all that in mind already.
Yeah,
I think it's like happening now already, and I think it's been happening. It's just been trying to give more opportunities and connections, because in general, so you have like some Latinos communities that are like third generation already or fourth generation,
right, yeah.
like been right, and then you have a lot of people who are first generation immigrants. So it kind of depends. It's hard to say exactly, because there is such, I think, with even the Latino community. And for me, in the Philadelphia area, there are Latinos here, but it's not the same as like being in Florida, right? Or being in Southern California, where like you really feel the culture is different, especially like in Miami, for example.
Yeah,
like,
you can even
it
speak
probably
Spanish
feels
there,
like a totally different country, 100%. In general, if you look at a lot of the United States youth national teams, look at the names, there's so much diversity, whether it's like Latino heritage, African, European, and whether that's like, so we have a lot of diversity in general. I think the question will be like, will more access come and more opportunities? I think for like the last 10 years or so, almost every MLS team has had an academy that is free for players to play. Whereas like even in the past, not all of the teams, not all the clubs had a youth academy to bring players up.
That's key to have like a good base for a football system. Yeah. Having youth in the club itself, it's so important.
Yeah, to be developed, absolutely. Yeah, so I think that like hopefully that's a factor that's going to bring more players from like communities and backgrounds that might not be able to afford it, because there is, the element in the United States, everything's expensive, but especially in football, we have this pay to play model, which is a very complicated issue too. With the MLS academies, more money being involved, more MLS teams are seeing that it's as a business model. They can develop players, sell them on to Europe. I think more kids are starting to get opportunities. Maybe that's the secret ingredient we need here.
Maybe one day you have America winning a World Cup. Who knows? Who can tell?
That's the goal, I would say. Yeah.
Leading with what you said about the youth formation in America, like starting to grow, we saw at your channel some videos of yourself going into the youth academy in places like Argentina, for example, and some other countries too. What are your thoughts in the Argentinian youth academies or whatever you've been watching when you came here?
Good question. I mean, yeah, I was fortunate to make some connections. If you know someone, it's very open. You get kind of welcomed in, and
it's
going to these places, and there's like 10 games happening all around you with all of the teams from like the 5-year-olds all the way
all the
up,
ages at the same time. Yeah,
exactly. And it's like cool. It's kind of like, wow, there's always a game happening. There's always something going on. So
the whole Saturday there.
Yeah.
Seriously. Yeah. And I was, sometimes I did, or I would be, okay, I've got to go somewhere else, or I need to spend some time with my wife or something. But there was like always an opportunity to watch football. So I feel like I saw a good amount of that. It's still hard to make like any really strong opinions or viewpoints.
All right.
But I think for me, the biggest thing that stands out with Argentine football is like something that we lack and that we don't have in the US is just like the cultural aspect, where every child's first gift is a football, right? Or it's the camiseta of the club. Like, and so it starts from a young age.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter the economical position or the status, or the rich kids play football and poor kids play football, and in between too.
Yeah, kids are watching from a young age, where like I coach as well in the United States. Like I manage a skill, like it's extra training, right? So it's extra training programs, not a team or anything, but we do all additional like private training and camps.
Right.
And like so many of the kids that we work with, like their parents never played football. They might watch it now because their kid's interested, but they have no idea what's happening. And so you just like you just like see in Argentina, like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, like they walk and they play with like a certain like personality that they just have gotten, like that they're born with, or they grow up with from a young age. I was talking to one coach in Argentina, and he said, we say that like a 6-year-old boy and a 6-year-old footballer is like two different things. And at first I was like not so sure, because for me, my coaching kind of philosophy and things is kind of putting the person first, at really making sure that we're like developing people, because such a small amount go professional. And even if they do, like they might make some money for their family for 3 years or 4 years, or like it's, you know, as far as a career and a long-term option, it's exciting, but it's not the most,
it's not practical at all.
Yeah. But then when I go into like some of the neighborhood clubs, like in the barrios in Buenos Aires, and I see these kids play, and I'm like, okay, I know what you mean. Like, it's very odd because you see off the field, he's running around, he's got like ice cream all over his face or something, you know, like he's a total mess. But then he goes on the pitch and he's like bossing around, and he's the way he can control the ball. It's like, it's crazy. They know how it is. It's almost like a different way of being.
Well, I think that's the most difficult part to get into a country, because 100%. It takes a lot of time and years and a lot of influence. It is really hard to do that.
Generation.
Because in Argentina, the same thing happens in Brazil, for example. We didn't look for it. It's just the way it has been built around all this time. You know, every kid kicks something. It doesn't even have to be a ball. They can kick a can, a paper wrapped up. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's kind of hard to put into a society like from the get-go, right?
We have
100%
more than 100 of football history here.
Yeah,
more than
years. Yeah, it's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah, so you talk about great grandfather and grandfather and father and passing down, and yeah, I think agreed that leads me to my next point of like in Argentina, it is the cultural side of football that long term will create the success on the field. Usually, what I really realize is like the cultural aspect, that is what takes the longest amount of time.
Exactly.
And like, for example, when I went to Argentina, the first thing people would say to me, like, oh yeah, football is becoming popular now because of Messi, right? And I'm like, of course, he is a huge factor. I am so happy. I'm so thankful. I'm very grateful that Leo decided to come to MLS, to the United States. Like, I feel an even more personal connection to him and his greatness now, and I appreciate that. But number one, we have been building football, and football has been here, just not mainstream and popular, right? Like, for example, Mariano, you said Beckham. Like, Beckham did the hard work 20 years ago that created the opportunity for Messi.
Exactly.
But we've been working on this a long time. So if you want to talk about impact, okay, you see the Messi Miami shirts everywhere. In Argentina, in the US, I was in Colombia, you see it. In Europe, you see it. It's everywhere. So people know and they're watching. But if you want to watch Messi play for Inter Miami, your two options are you go to the stadium. Usually it's probably a minimum $350, $400 ticket, right? So like 350,000 pesos, 400,000 pesos for one ticket, right? Yeah. Or if you want to watch on TV, you have to watch through Apple TV in the US, which is a subscription. It's like $15 a month or something, which like for the US, maybe it's not a lot, but it's like, it's an extra step. Like it's another wall and barrier between people. It's not like you just turn the TV on and he's there and you can watch. I understand the economics of it. I understand the money side, and that's what MLS is here to do. It's to make as much money as possible, which I think is something to be interesting to talk about, that clubs in the US are not really clubs. They're franchises, they're businesses. Wow. It's like top down. Whereas like in Argentina, it's a bunch of people in the neighborhood got together, made a club, and now 100 years later you have Boca. Now 100 years later you have San Lorenzo, you have River. Like it's a totally different system. I just wonder how far Messi's impact will go.
The thing about America is at the end of the day, it's still a market. You guys got into it because of the profit it could give. So I mean, it's sad, but it's the thing that it's killing sports like worldwide. It's the same thing we talked about the first time we talked with Argentinian kids. I mean, they play here like 1-2 years and then boom, they're gone. They're gone to Europe or Qatar or Dubai or the MLS. It's so hard to reject, like, I don't know, $2-3 million here in Argentina. It's impossible.
Exactly.
And that's kind of sad, but we have to maybe understand that's where it's going now, right?
And this is happening too in Africa.
In Africa. Imagine if it's a lot of money here, $3 million here. Imagine in Africa, you can buy part of village, it's so much money for them.
What do you see in Africa?
Yeah, I went to the Costa de Marfil in January for the Copa Africa, like the African Cup of Nations. That was my first time in Africa. I just went for 1 week, but I got to meet like local coaches, some players, like agents, scouts, and got to see like some really good level academy football, like 16 to 18 years old. Some of the best academies families in Cote d'Ivoire that produce like Gervinho, Yaya Toure, Kolo Toure, like some of those, the golden generation, right?
No.
Yeah, like the golden generation. So in Africa, it's like I was talking to some scouts, and they're like, you don't scout anyone in the first divisions in Africa because they're all terrible. Because if any player is good, they go to Europe when they're a teenager or like maximum 19 or something. Like there's scouts, there's clubs, and there's still a long way to like go. But in a place like Ivory Coast that has a pretty good brand, let's say, right, a pretty good football reputation for producing players, Ghana, Nigeria,
Senegal.
Like places like this, Senegal, right, like they're scouting kids so young, sending them off right away to Europe, or at least agreeing these deals. So like no one in the first division, so they don't even play in the first division at all, right? So at least in Argentina, you guys might get to see someone for a year or two.
For a couple of years.
I don't know if that makes you feel better. Yeah. Or then they come back, or sometimes the Argentine players come back.
Sometimes they come back when they're older.
I know you had the best players in the world and they stayed at home, or like maybe would go to Italy a few years, but they really lived their full career in Argentina.
I wonder, Andrew, because you say that maybe the players goes to Europe, all the families have to go with them.
Yes.
Because they are youth, and this help in some kind of way the whole family.
But of those particular players, not of the whole country.
Yeah, but
that's the thing.
No, because
it saves a lot of lives. I mean, it must be life-saving for kids going to Europe and play, but still kind of ruins the football.
No, well, at the country, yes. Maybe not the national team, but just for the local league.
Yeah. Because of the money that's involved, because of the opportunities to be a professional footballer, and then how difficult life is without that opportunity. And in a place like Costa de Marfil, for example, it is seen as like a real opportunity to change your life or your family's life. Like, for example, I was talking to someone who is a manager of one of the big academies there. In regular times, people see being a footballer as an opportunity to get out, to change your life. But after they won the tournament in January, they hosted the tournament and then they were champions. He said he got so many more parents and people coming to him to apply, to say, hey, come look at my son, take my son, like let him join, because it just became even more like fresh and reminded everyone like, hey, maybe be a footballer and make a lot of money. Yeah, exactly. And so even increases that opportunity. And again, it's like in a perfect world, we would like there to be more opportunities for people to make a livelihood, not just rely on football, and maybe have a stronger domestic leagues.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your channel, your YouTube channel.
What was your goal? How you started?
Sometimes I have no idea. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm like,
just like us.
I'm like, why did I? What is this all about? I think I'd probably been thinking about it for a long time. Like when I was really young, like in high school, like 13, 14 years old, like, of course I wanted to be a footballer first. That was my first goal. But then after that, I was like, all right, I'll be like a journalist and like write about football or something like that, or just be involved with it. But that kind of like faded and I didn't really do too much with it. And then a few years ago, it would be fun to do a podcast or a YouTube channel. And so I think I just tried it. I just wanted to do the podcast really it's really just a way to like connect with people, and just saying you have a podcast, you can have conversations with people that otherwise would be like, well, I don't need to waste my time talking to you. It's kind of like, you go to the casino, you have some chips to play with, and it gives you like an opportunity. I think like I'm still experimenting, figure things out. I love to just see every level of football, which is why in Argentina I went to the clubs, the neighborhood clubs, youth academy, Reserva, first division, second division.
Yeah, you saw all the different parts of football.
Little fields anywhere. Like we went to, like in Salta and Jujuy, like stone pitches in the mountains, like Sunday league. And I like to do that everywhere, because I think it's just, football is just a great way to connect with people, to have a conversation, to make friends, and then to learn about people, their lives, the culture. Football is such a global game, so you can see how it's the same or a little bit different everywhere you go. And so I think that, that's kind of it, and of like just trying to have those conversations about the game with people who are at all all different levels, not just, I'm not interested in just seeing the top teams everywhere and division, but really just seeing like all the ways that football connects with people's lives and kind of shapes and forms the path and the journey we go through.
Well, that's a thing called our attention when we saw your channel for the first time, that you didn't just stuck with the big teams and the big matches. No. You were deep and you went to the youths and you went to the different kind of football fields and places. Mm-hmm. So you try to tell the story from different angles, and that's always interesting in football, because in a place like here, football is everywhere, in the roots, in the streets, everywhere. Even in people of our age going to play with our friends, we still play football as we were like 15 years old. Doesn't really matter. So that's the thing we really like, that you made like a bigger approach to football, you know.
And you try to connect with people. We saw it at the Super Clásico, drinking Fernet.
Exactly. Well, we can talk a bit about well, that's the fun part when you visit another country, interacting with people that doesn't even speak your own language, and you can try to understand. That's fun. So let's talk about a bit of the Super Clásico video. We had one of your videos in your channel like went viral. It's a Super Clásico match. You guys have it there, and you went to the Boca part of the Super Clásico. You didn't pick River. You're gonna tell us now how that happened. He went to the Boca part of the stadium, and he hung out with the fans, drinking Fernet, viendo asado.
You can go after this interview and watch that video.
You should. It's a great video, and people really liked it. So first, tell us a bit how you managed that. Did you expect such a good reaction or such a sudden viral kind of thing?
No way. Yeah. No, like that. Most of my channel had, for like last year, I started it officially, you could say, in 2023. Mm-hmm. And it was mostly just interviews, like podcast interviews with people in football, working in different parts of the world and things. Getting into the videos, making videos, storytelling, like that was like a big jump for me in terms of my comfort zone, my skills.
All right.
So really I did 2 videos in Argentina about like the different academies and places I visited, like at Racing and at River. And then the Super Clásico one was the first one that I like officially wanted to do a video. Of course, I went to many other matches and I always had my GoPro and was doing videos and things, but like I still didn't have like the confidence kind of to make the video.
Yeah.
But it was a special day. Like before the day, my plan was I'll do a few hours at the River Previa and a few hours at Boca, and I'll do a little bit of both, and I want to see both sides of everything. Okay. I found out pretty soon that it just wouldn't be possible. Yeah, there's like the security and everything.
No
like
way,
again, I knew some people, but like I didn't have any option. And then like what you wear, all that thing, all those things. So so even because before Super Clásico, I did go to the Monumental. I went to La Bombonera twice, but I still hadn't really like picked a team or felt like really strongly either way. Okay. And then I just happened to get tickets from someone who's from Boca. So it was going to be in the Boca side. And I was like, okay, so, we're committing here. Today's Boca.
It was not a hard call.
No, at first, no. After, because of after is a little bit different story, I think. So okay. I think about halfway through the Previa, I was like, okay, now I am Botero.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's something about it. There's something about that. But of course, overall, for everyone listening, for all the other clubs, like I have respect for all of Argentine football in general. I know Boca is one of the biggest, so it might be easier to follow. Normally with other things, like I try to be like the hipster guy who likes the things that other people don't like. But for some reason in Argentine football, it is Boca. So I think I was just really fortunate that day to meet some great people. Always kept my camera going, just had some amazing moments. And then the match was amazing, with multiple goals back and forth, having both sets of fans in the stadium. I think that probably created more interest. And then I remember watching some of the video later at night and just being like, what did I just live? Like, this is like a bucket list. Like, I can't believe it. Because I didn't think I'd even see the Super Clásico at all. I actually arrived 4 or 5 days after the Super Clásico in the end of February, like the first one of the season. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm going to miss it. Like I'm not going to have a chance. And then with the playoffs and like the eliminatorias and things like it, or I had the opportunity. So I was like so thankful that I had the opportunity
And
to go
you
to
got
Superclass as well.
lucky because we haven't been having the opportunity to have both sides in the same stadium. We have been a lot of years with
Exactly.
just one of we had a lot of violence in the stadium. Yeah, and now I think was the first or the second, I don't know. So you got lucky there too. You got to see
Really
both of
fortunate.
them.
No, well, in Madrid
Yeah, it
you
was-
have the two groups.
Madrid.
Yeah, exactly. It was the first one since Madrid. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that
first
match,
one.
that match has to play in Madrid because here it was a really mess.
Yeah,
Yes.
here it was.
Yeah.
So you got lucky there too. And in the Boca partiality, you felt like goodbyes.
Absolutely.
Maybe a phrase
yeah,
that you can
super welcome.
remember, you say
Yeah.
it a lot of times, I don't know.
They were friendly,
course.
right? They seemed like
For
really enjoying themselves.
Yeah, that day, like I met the guy who I got the ticket from, and then I got like in a taxi to the stadium. The taxi driver was a great, like amazing guy. Just,
That's
like,
the one we
best
saw in the
vibes.
video?
Yeah, exactly.
He
And
was gonna
just,
eat
like,
asado
so-
after. Yeah, se iba a
Yeah,
comer un
exactly.
asado.
He was like such a great conversation, and I turned the camera on, and he is like born for the camera, like
Yeah,
ready
he's
for
a
it.
natural
He was
performer,
like, he
man.
was awesome. So he just had me in such a good mood. And then, yeah, just walking to the stadium and you just start to see it. And then literally, like, I entered the parking lot and it was like the first group of people that I saw. They were just like, Boca, Boca. And that was like,
That's the
it.
phrase.
and that was it. And
I
then
mean,
I kind of just stayed with them
primitive
for the
language.
day, and it was incredible.
And you had Fernet. What are your feelings about Fernet con Coca?
Yeah, another good
Bitter,
question.
sweet.
Yeah, I think that was the third time I had Fernet,
Okay.
and it was the first time I enjoyed it.
All right. They say it's
So
an
it took
acquired
some
taste.
time.
That
The environment and all that.
Yeah,
Exactly,
they say
yeah.
it takes
It's-
time. You don't like it
Yeah.
at first. It takes some time to
No,
acquire.
I mean that maybe at the match, if you drink at the
Oh yeah,
stadium,
the
Fernet,
context with
yes,
the people
context.
around. Yes, it's a different
Exactly.
thing, but it's not like particularly nice.
And you get drunk? No. Oh yes.
I wouldn't say like as much as some other people, but I will say in Argentine football, for as much as people do drink and the previas and everything, like you don't see people out of control. Like in the United States, you go to games, you're gonna see some people who have had too much to drink. It becomes this like not a nice feeling and atmosphere sometimes. You know, you go to American football games, or especially like university, like college American football and things, and like literally they start in the morning and they drink all day for the previa, where it's like that's the way of life.
And they end
But I was
up
saying-
in those videos I like where they're like people punching each other for no reason. Like you're from a different club than mine, and they
Or
hit
just
each
like
other.
in a bush somewhere, like passed out with their shoes off or something.
Exactly, but that's maybe because you guys sell beer like within the stadium, right?
We do, yeah. Generally, you can get alcohol inside most of the stadiums, especially like the professional. Some of the universities, no, but I think it's just like a little different American culture with alcohol. We do have a tendency to go too far and try to almost go too far, like just to go too far.
You guys drink a lot. Yeah, when we see tourists,
Yeah.
that's like a characteristic of American people. They drink a lot. They drink a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
And in Brazil,
And
it's
Brazil, when you
something
see
like that
them
too.
in vacation and stuff, all day long, like from the get-go, you know?
So yeah, I don't think that I would drink the Fernet just at a restaurant. I know you can get it.
No.
It probably wouldn't be my first choice, but it's something about the football. And even before I came to Argentina, I was doing my research, watching a lot of videos and seeing like the Coca bottle cut in half, or some people do like the cardboard, like the wine and everything.
Yeah.
For me, that was like, all right, when I see this, I have officially arrived in Argentina.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I finally did it, and it was part of it. So I knew I had to be prepared. Like I knew if I had a bottle of Fernet, it would help me to make some friends and show that I knew what I was doing here. And it worked out for that. It worked out for the Copa America for Argentina as well. It worked the same.
That
So
was a
it's a
smart
good
move.
trick.
Yeah, that was a pretty smart move.
It's okay right now if you want to be polite, but did you see this kind of passion for the football in another country?
Definitely not. I would say of club football, I haven't seen that much like club football in Europe, honestly, but even so, not quite the same level. And I think what I liked about Argentine football is that it was not as, and of course this is probably because of, you know, no visitantes in the stadium and things, but like it was not as aggressive and as a tense atmosphere as I expected. You see all generations, so you see the kids, you see the abuelos, you got everybody, 2 years old babies. Like at Super Classico, there was like a 2-year-old there, you know.
You see a lot of women too.
Exactly. Yeah, more women than I expected. So I think that's like a really nice part of Argentine football, where you have the passion, but it doesn't have that like aggressive kind of energy. Whereas
It's a
I
lot
think
of
in
party,
other
right?
countries, when you have the ultras and stuff, yeah, exactly. It's more of like a festival atmosphere. And for me, I noticed that like all of the energy and all the passion is like, most of it probably before the game for the previa. Like I think you guys just love the previa, the anticipation, getting ready. Then during the match, there's going to be passion during the match. And then as soon as the final whistle goes, it's almost like woof, like everybody finally reacts, and there's like nothing, like there's hardly any like cheering. Like in the US, like the final whistle at the end of the game, of course it's not going to be as much energy, as much applause as like the goals and that, but like you're going to get a big celebration at the end because finally you officially won. But I noticed in all the matches I went to in Argentina, it's almost like you guys are just exhausted and you're like, okay, woof. And like maybe 1 or 2 songs about how the other team is terrible and they should go home or something.
Exactly.
But then, you know, to really rub it in a little more.
You said it perfectly. When the match ends, you're like, oh my God, it's just like you played too. You know, I don't know if that happened to you, but after it's over, it's like, oh my God, I need to rest now. You don't even realize, but you've been like jumping around, screaming, singing, moving, paying attention, being tight and nervous. So when it's done, you're like, oh my God. Yeah, you just rub it on the other team's faces and get a big laugh, and it's done. Let's go home. Let's go sleep a bit.
Yeah.